Okay, this is a work make with Patrizia Falzetti and Paola Giangiacomo, and we want to combine the data from ISTAT and from INVALSI to understand the explicit and implicit school living. And this is a process with some difficulties. First of all, we talk about the early leavers from education and training, the ISTAT, the share of 18 to 24 years old with at most secondary school living certificate, or the level 2 of the ISTAT classification, or the lower secondary school degree. However, we know that the elite data cannot give the exact dimension of the problem of early school living, because students who graduate from upper secondary school without having reached the minimum skill required for their studies are not included in this calculation. We have in the early leavers, there aren't the implicit dispersion. And this contribution will try to estimate their overall school living by statistical combining data from the ELET, early leavers from education and training, with data from ISTAT, and for we call ILET, implicit leavers from education and training, with data from INVALSI. This is the definition of early leavers. I say just, but I repeat because there is another point, because it's the share of 18 to 24 years old with a most secondary school living certificate, or a qualification lasting no longer than 2 years, and not attending a school or training course. And this is an indicator provided by ISTAT. The data are derived from the labor force surveys, and the data are calculated as annual average of quarterly data. The measure is agreed at European level, and the European communities also set a target for Italy to reach the 10% of ELET in 2020, but the data for 2020 is 13.1%. This is the early leavers from education training. There is a problem, because we talk about 18 to 24 years old, but we know that when we stay at the last year of upper secondary school, the students are 18, 19 years old. I think it's also 20, but not 24. I think it's not true. This is the definition of implicit, we call implicit leavers from education and training, or implicit dispersion. And is the share of students in grade 13 who reached at most level 2 in Italian and in mathematics, and who didn't reach level B1 in English, both for reading and listening. We know that the levels for INVALSI test is 5, from 1 to 5, and when the students are in 1 or 2, they are insufficient in the Italian and mathematics. In fact, this student obtain the diploma, but they don't reach, their level match the learning goals required for the low secondary school students. That is definitely lower that aspect. They have the diploma for upper secondary school, but they have the competence of the lower secondary school. Okay, now we want to combine these two different sources. We don't have the register. We talked in the morning for this, and also we cannot match the students. But we follow a macro approach. And we talk about the INVALSI data that are calculated for 2 school years, the 2018, 2009, and 2020, 2021, because in the 2019 to 2020, the INVALSI test, we didn't, okay. But the life force survey data are calculated per calendar year. And this is a problem. How can we harmonize them? We make an hypothesis. The hypothesis is that the INVALSI data for 2008-2009 covering student age 18 in 2018 and age 19 in 2019, because the majority of students at the last year in upper secondary school, they have 19 years old. For this, in life force survey data in relation to this school year, we take the population of 17, 18, 19 years old for the year 2008, and population of 18, 19, 20 years old for the year of 2019. We chose 2 survey edition and 3 years, 3 student years for edition, because the sample data concerning a court for this phenomenon, this limited phenomenon, are too few. If I disaggregate, for example, for region, but also for gender, we need a higher numerosity of observation. For the other school year, the school year 2020-2021, the hypothesis is the same. We cover students age 8 in 2020 and 19 in 2021. And for the labor force survey, we take the population of 17, 18, 19 years old in 2020 and population of 18, 19, 20 years old in 2021. But there is another problem, because now we have in 2021, and the life force survey data for 2021 are not yet available. The survey is going, just going. And they will be available in March 2022. For this, now we must calculate the data only with the 2020 and not with the 2021, but we will update the calculation in March 2022. To recap, because this is important steps for the calculation. We calculate the ILET on the total number of students responding to the INVALSI test, and the ILET are calculated on the total population age 17-19 in 2018 and the total population age 19-21 in 2019, and this is okay for the school year 2008 and 2019. For the school year 2020-2021, ILET are calculated on the total number of students responding to the INVALSI test, and the later calculated on the total number population age 17, 19, and 2020. And we will update the data for the 2021 in March 2022. Okay. Now, this is the result. The result is very significant because we look in the blue. The blue are the ILET, and the orange are the ILET, implicit and explicit. And the proportion of overall school leaving in 2020, 2021 was 1.6 percentage points higher than in 2018, 2019. The overall school leaving increase, but the implicit dispersion increase from 7% to 9.5%. Viceversa, the early leavers, the explicit dispersion decrease from 11.9 to 11.1. This is the situation of Italy in the complex. And this is the situation for male and for female, and there is a big difference between the overall school leaving is increased for male, and the overall school leaving is decreasing for females. And but the part of school leaving of dropout referred to implicit leaving increase for men and for women. And also for the female, that the overall school leaving is decreasing, the part of implicit leaving increase. This is a very important graph, because overall school leaving is stable in the north, and the part of implicit dispersion is stable, and but overall school leaving increase in south and center due to implicit early school leaving. In fact, in the south, in 2020-2021, 1 in every 3 young people drop out, 32.5%, and the part of implicit dispersion is higher than the part of explicit dispersion. This is the graph for regions. On the right, the 2018-2009, on the left, on the right, 2020 to 2021, and we can say that the explicit leavers explicit leavers are decreasing. The top, the higher value is for Sicily, 19.9% in 2008 and 2009, and 17.4% in 2020-2021. Okay. This is the part for, sorry. Okay. This is the graph for implicit leavers or implicit dispersion. And we can look at the increase, because we have 17.4 for Calabria in 2018, and now we have 22.4 for Calabria, the region with the high value. This is the combination of the two dispersion, explicit and implicit, and the value in 2020 to 2021, 37.4% in Calabria are drop out of school, or there is a dispersion. There are no number very high. In this data, we can recognize the impact of distance learning and school closure because in implicit dispersion, in fact, in 2020, there was one of the most profound and sudden transformation. Moving from a total in-person teaching to a distance learning for the last month of the 2019-2020 school year to a mixed teaching in the 2020-2021 school year. And also we can recognize the impact of the ministerial indication for the conduct of the examination for grade 13 because there are a lower number of the school failures. But we want to puntualize the methodological challenges that we can do to arrive at this concept, because even at the macro level, using data from different sources present problems. The first problem is, are we talking about the same population? Is not clear, because the data, we have data per school year when we talk about INVALSI, and data per calendar year when we talk about ISTAT data. The students can be younger, like 17 years old, also at grade 13, or older, 20 years old and more. Some students do not take the INVALSI test, because in the day of INVALSI test, they aren't present at school. Students enrolled in EFP course don't participate in the INVALSI test. And students living in the province of Bolzano don't participate in a part of the INVALSI test. We can do the implicit dispersion. The sample size is too small for small region or for small disaggregation. This is important for elite. And for this, I want to show this. If you look to Marche and Molise, Marche is this one, and Molise is this one. If you look at 2020, 2021, Marche, the early livers is more and more higher than also Molise. This because this is a small region, and we have only 1 year, because now we don't have the 2021. With the 2021, I think that this difference there isn't. But it's a problem because the phenomenon is smaller, and we have many regions with very few population, like Molise, Basilicata, Marche. This is the region with problems in ISTAT data. And the different timelines of data is another problem, but because we have to wait March 2022 for data, 2021 data of life for service. Instead, the data of INVALSI, we have the data of INVALSI on September, and there are 6 months difference. And there is problem also to other disaggregation. First of all, the socioeconomic levels. The INVALSI definition of economic, social, cultural status index is not reproducible with labor for survey data. We can do a proxy, but not the same indicator. Also, the definition citizenship, a native, first generation foreigner, and second generation for INVALSI is not reproducible with lab or for survey data, but it is possible to have a proxy. Also, the I think also the level of level of education of parents. I think it's not the same. There is a problem of classification. But we are approaching this phenomenon, and we approach it the center of the target, identify overall school living, but we still have to carry out experiments and other tests to have a good interpretation of this phenomena. We try and we continue. Thank you very much. Okay.
Do you have question? Any question? Okay.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of questions actually. The first is just a clarification about the definition of implicit dispersion. It is about that the students must neither have the level in no one of the subject, right? So if at least one, so if at least one, it's okay. It's okay. The second one is, does not INVALSI can have its own measure of explicit dispersion, looking at the CD INVALSI, the code, so looking at how many students drop out from the data set when going from a grade to another grade?
I think that the students that drop out of the INVALSI test is not because they drop out the school, but it's possible that they are not present at the Yes.
You are the president.
I am
you can.
I think it could be a very good idea, because if the law remain the same this year, we are in a quite good position to do what he's proposing, because this year the INVALSI test for grade 13 is compulsory, meaning that if I don't take the test, it's not possible to take the final exams. So if I could understand, your proposal is not the dropout from the test, but the dropout from the schools, yes. You mean? So in a certain sense, maybe it could be possible to try to use this data also
to control, because the dropout of exactly. The school or the dropout of the nation, if you go abroad.
Yeah. If the student is not present in that day for grade 13, is not a huge issue, because is computer delivered the test. So if you are not at school that day, you can take the test another day. So it is. No, not at the moment, no.
We will know. Next year.
So if I may, I would like, first of all, I would like to thank you for very, very impressive and tremendous work. It is very interesting. I have several considerations, some remarks and requests as well. First of all, I think if I go to the slide where you add the two parts of the dropout, I see in the near future a big problem that the country has to face, because we are at the moment underestimate the external or official dropout, because how we can measure this dropout when or typically when we can see the dropout when the student knows that's more or less the probability to pass to the next year if he or she, probably more he than she, understand that it's not possible to go to the next year, he leaves the schools or she leaves the schools. Now we know that in these last 2 years, that was not a big problem because the possibility to go to the next grade was quite 100% sure because also this year. And we could use, just to involve ISTAT in our very comfortable position, try to explain or in a technical way to institution the implication if in this present year we decide to cancel the written tests for the national state exams. Because together with this data, we have exactly the opposite picture when we take the final marks of national state exams. It's shocking, really shocking, first of all. Second, I'm very happy to see that you are working so hardly and to the implicit dropout, because if I just think how we, Patrizia and I, started to reflect to this implicit dropout, and I'm very good impressed because if very roughly speaking, as I usually do, if I add the simple number of the ILET and the implicit dropout, I get a very similar number of the tremendously more precise number that you get if you add in a so good way the 2 components of the dropout. So the idea is we are in the right way. Yeah. It is extremely important. And the other aspect, maybe this is more in INVALSI side, we have the problem of, as he was saying, our definition has a very, very large number of false negative students, because if just by chance I have level 3 in one subject, I'm out of this data, but we know if I only level 3 in Italian or math or whatever, I'm very similar to this position.
And
so
also if the student doesn't do one of the 4 tests.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it could be very important to go more in depth in this.
But for this, you don't editing the imputation of missing data for this case, only for this.
No, because please help me to convince Patrizia, because I'm trying to convince her to do some kind of mild imputation, but you know, at the moment was not possible.
To convince the students.
Yeah, but joking apart, I think this year could be a good chance to improve our data, because the compulsory status of the INVALSI test for grade 13. And last but not least, I'm very curious because I think our duty is to make available for the general community also predictors of this kind of problem, and how this kind of data are related with a similar definition of potential dropout, a third classification, starting from the primary school and the low secondary school, because I think that we could do a very good job if we work on the low secondary school in order to prevent in some way this dropout. So I think we have a lot of things to do, but thank you very much for very nice and
I
interesting
want
goal.
only to say that the implicit dropout, I put this indicator in Agenda 2030 in January. We disseminate the data. Yes, the ISTAT at the Agenda 2030 in the website, and we every 6 months we update the data, and in January I put the implicit dispersion.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
In the goal 4 of Agenda 2030 is a good choice.
Yes, I think because it's very, very important for our country, because
Yes.
even in the best regions, the real level of dropout is above the 10%. So it is quite a critical issue, because we know in the for the next PNRR, if this is correct, the goal is even stricter than 10%. And if we add this additional component, I see a very hard job to do. Thank you very much.
There are any questions from online? No? Other questions? Oh. Two questions.
Yeah.
Lorenzo and Maria Laura.
Hi, thanks. I understand how important it is to use the implicit dropout in a situation like Italy, and to combine this with the explicit indicator. But I was wondering, also combining this with the previous paper, what are the, I mean, if the two indicators have can be influenced in a different way by the labor market, because, for instance, suppose that you have a period or an area where the unemployment rate is particularly low, so there is a lot of demand from the labor market, then you could have that students drop out, and this could also have a gender effect, boys and girls, to move to the labor market, while the implicit dropout, of course, these are students who have low level of abilities, but they stay in school. So the difference between the two indicators could also be linked to the labor market somehow.
Yes. Thank you for suggesting. Yes.
Yes, but at the same time, if you take a look to the ranking of the regions, what you are saying is typical in the northeast of the country, but at the same time are the region with the lowest level, meaning that, of course, but we can control, for instance, with grade 10, just to see if we miss this kind of students. To be entirely honest, of course, it's not negligible, but the main part of the problem is internal to the school system. I were, in a certain, from a technical point of view, very happy if this could be an explanation, but I don't think so. Of course, there are some kind of the problem, but if I could understand your point, of course, I think, of course, the labor market could play a role, but I think when we started to look on this problem, it's like to dive in a very muddy water. Very muddy water. I mean, under the surface of the water, there are so many phenomena that are coming up with this data. Unfortunately, for my feeling with the data, the labor market plays a role, but not that much. This is the idea, but we have to study it. Yeah. Yes.
Tanto risponde Roberto.
May I
Yes.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I think that in principle, you should be able to pull data together and estimate probabilities with different probabilities of being implicit or explicit dropout with a regression model, for example, with categorical or multinomial regression model, which I think should address even the problem of uncertainty, because you have data, you merge data from two samples which are different, that have different uncertainty margins. So using this kind of strategy, I think the problem of differential uncertainty would be absorbed in the estimation of model parameters using regression. Categorical, I think so.
Also the confidence level I can use because there is a sample for the.
Yeah, but regression gives gives an estimation of
this is the first step,
which is not the. Yes, they
no,
have.
no,
But they can have them because they can pull individual level from INVALSI and. I don't see why not. Well, the problem is that different variables are available for level 4 survey and for INVALSI. Not the same pool of variables are collected on the two samples.
Yes, but the population is the same. The population of boys and girls 18, 19. This is the population.
No, they are
and we have a
sample.
sample.
Implicit dropout are people who got diploma, where explicit didn't get diploma.
Yes.
So they are not the same population.
Not the same.
Yeah.
For this, I can put together because there are two part of population.
But I don't see why you can put them together at individual level. You have individual individual data from level 4 survey, microdata, and you have microdata with INVALSI. Why not try to put them together and estimate?
Because level 4 survey is a sample. INVALSI is a census or a sample.
Yes, but they are data. Even INVALSI is a sample.
Yes.
Because it is a you told it's not a casual sample. I'm sorry. Sorry, but it is a sample as well. So why not to try?
We try.
Why not to try and see what comes out? Maybe it's not interesting. Maybe it is. Maybe it's an improvement. Maybe it's not. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Now we start with.